Functions can be called with arguments or parameters. Arguments are basically input data to the function. So in my test function that I did in the last set of slides, it didn't have any arguments. It just printed something and it didn't need any input data. But often functions require input data to process on. So those input data, you call those arguments. A function can take arguments, which are values that are bound to variables inside the program at execution time. Okay? So the arguments, any arguments that you want to pass as information to the function, you list them inside the parentheses when you make the function call. And also inside parentheses when you're doing the definition of the function. So we'll see that here. So say I want to define something that computes the area of a circle. So I say def circle area. Now, if you want to compute the area of a circle, that's pi r squared, right? Where r is radius. So I have to take an argument. You can't figure out the area of a circle without knowing the radius. So I'm going to make a radius an argument. I call it rad here, right? So I put rad in parentheses to say, look, this function has to take one argument, which I will call rad. Then inside it, I just say print 3.14, which is approximately pi, times rad, my simple version, right? That's pi rad squared, r squared. And so when I run that, when I want to execute it, I call the function circle area. I pass it 2 as an argument. That's the radius that I want. So I put 2 inside the parentheses. And then it computes it and prints out the result. So that's how you pass arguments to functions. So you have to define it in the definition. You name the argument. And then at runtime, that 2, when you call circle area, pass it to 2, that 2 will be bound to rad, right? That variable rad. And so 2 will be rad, so it will compute, it'll print out 3.14 times 2 times 2. It'll substitute the 2 in for the rad. Now, functions, in addition to taking input values, they can also return output values. Those are called return values. So functions can return values if you use the return instruction at the end of the function. Now notice in my last program I didn't use return. I said print, which just prints it to the screen. That's different than returning a value. Returning a value, when you return a value, the whole function call is substituted for whatever the return value is inside whatever expression you use the function call. So if you use the function call inside a bigger expression, so if you say 5 plus area, circle area, and I call it with a 2, then it'll compute what the circle area is with a 2. If I return that, it'll substitute that in, so it'll do 5 plus whatever the return value is. So I'll give an example. So I got my circle area. I define it, and this time I say return. Return 3.14 times rad times rad. Now I say circle area 2. If I just call circle area 2, it returns 12.56. But if I say 3 plus circle area 2, it'll return 15.56 because it just takes whatever circle area 2 returns and it substitutes it right in there into the bigger expression, 3 plus circle area 2. So 3 plus 12.56, and it returns 15.56. So that's a return value, and that's useful a lot of times. Thank you.